guys, it's Glenn from glenscarcollection.com, and hopefully today is the first of many point of view videos I'm going to post this year on drives. We're driving my BMW M340i XDrive. XDrive stands for all-wheel drive. It's a 2020 model that I leased for 3 years and 36,000 miles. We're driving in Sport Plus and in manual mode so we can use the paddle shifters. The only transmission available is an 8-speed automatic torque converter transmission, but you can get this car in rear-wheel drive. Here in northern New Jersey, the dealers only stock them in all-wheel drive because that's what people will buy, but I know some of you have gotten rear drive versions, and I am totally jealous. I had the S8 before this as my daily driver, 2013 Audi S8. A lot of things I miss about that car, but this car is way better handling on the back roads. That was probably the better highway car with a more powerful 520 horsepower twin-turbo V8. Massage seats, great stereo. This doesn't have any of those, but this is much better handling, a much lighter car, 3,800 pounds, I believe, as opposed to about 4,200 with the Audi. So what do I like about this car? What do I not like about this car? Well, first of all, I'm under the miles. I only have about 35, maybe 3,800 miles on it. This car in comfort mode is essentially a regular BMW. I wouldn't call it, it's definitely not hardcore like an M3. Not that an M3 is hardcore, but it's definitely a fast luxury car. But what I like about it is that it handles really, really well. On these drives, I can keep up with the Porsche in front of us. My friend has a 2009 997.2. 997.2 is a great car because it doesn't have the IMS problems. It's got a DFI engine. You get LED lights, an updated interior navigation system, so it's really the car to buy. They didn't make very many 997.2s because they came out in 09 when the economy was in the tank, and that's when PDK came out, so a very small percentage of them are manuals. 993s, most of them are manuals. 996, most of them are manuals. 997.1s, there's a heck of a lot of manuals, but once PDK came out, the dealers were really stocking the PDK cars, and that's what people bought. So you really have a high resale value. And he bought his car, I think, just before COVID. So I think he paid like 45 for it with 30,000 miles. It's probably worth 55 today. 997 prices are getting crazy. So what do I like and don't like? Well, one of the things I'm really surprised that's done better than I thought was handling on this car. I thought, you know, coming from 8 different M cars, that the handling wouldn't be good enough. And it's not M car levels of handling, even though BMW considers this an M car because it's an M Sport. So the way it's going to work now is M Sport, the regular M, the M Competition. Yeah. What I don't like is the gears is down here small, which is really hard to read. But you do have your tachometer on your the heads-up display, which is helpful. My ears are popping with the altitude here. So surprising handling. One thing I'll tell you I hate is these all-season run flats. They're very skinny, which is good for bad weather, such as snow, but you definitely don't have the grip. The rear will give out. It's not like an M3 with a much wider rear tire. And like I said, this is the first level of M car, so it would be M Sport like this, M3, M3 Competition, M3 CS, and M3 CSL. And then this may be the first time ever we actually get a CSL. We've gotten the CS on the M3, M4, and the M2, so hopefully we'll get CSL's version in this generation. So now, would I take this or the new M3? Honestly, if I had waited a year, I would have got the new M3. Even though it's got those ugly grills, I think the car is gorgeous without that. If you hate the ugly grills, here's a tip for you. Just get the M340i XDrive. It's cheaper, and you don't have to worry about those ugly grills. So that's why I don't understand on the 4 Series, they gave it those ugly big grills, the M440, but the M340, who came out a year ago, does not. So I think that's a big advantage for us, is we don't have to worry about those ugly grills. This road's really tight. Now this is probably one of the tighter sections for a car like this with all-season tires. And why do I'm driving with all-season tires? Is because it's only 23 degrees, and it was actually flaring on the way up here. It's actually flaring up here. This car did really well. If I put summer tires, I know some of you were smart and got rid of the all seasons right away. For me, it was a lease, so it probably didn't make sense to do that. But what you probably should do, see all the salt here? That's another reason I drove this car today instead of the 911 or the S2000. But it's got a ton of power. This is actually, I think, my fastest car, 0 to 60. So BMW claims 4.3 seconds for the rear drive, 4.1 for this all-wheel drive version. And I know Car and Driver Motor Trend, they've gotten as low as 3.8 seconds. And it feels, honestly, from the butt dyno, it feels probably about 3.8 seconds. Gas mileage is great. If you keep the revs low, like drive it in comfort mode, you can get in the 30s on the highway. You know, my E90 M3 got 17 on a good day. But, and this car, the power's down low because of the turbos. It's a gorgeous looking car, especially this grille on the M340. It sounds really good, and I'm sure the sound is enhanced, no doubt. But I get a lot of compliments driving this car from people following behind me, and they say, wow, your car really sounds good. So you do have the pops and crackles on the exhaust. It's Sport Plus mode. The shifts are actually pretty good. They're not dual clutch good, but they're torque converter smooth. So I drive in manual mode most of the time. If I'm cruising on the highway or just going around town, then I'll drive in comfort mode. But spiritedly, I always put it in Sport Plus and I use the paddles. This was a great winter daily driver. It's a great daily driver overall. But even on my spirited runs, I did a lot of drives this winter. It was pretty great, pretty fantastic driving this as spiritedly, like I would say on the 911 or the S2000 on these drives. My car's pretty fully loaded. It had a sticker of 66,000. I think 56 is the starting price. You probably don't need all these options. I probably don't use them all. I love the heads-up display. I like the heads-up upgraded stereo, though the stereo is nowhere near the Bang & Olufsen in my Audi SA. I mean, nowhere near. It's probably 10% of that, but it's not a $6,000 option like it was in the Audi. All right, guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.